All right, welcome back for another exciting partner podcast. I'm Steve Tierney,
I'm Paul Nienow.
and we're here. It is August 14th. We are heading actually towards the next deadline, which is
Yeah.
on September 15th.
Yeah.
Is corporate, S corps partnerships that are due, and so we're kind of trying to stay ahead of the game. We're here a little bit later on a Friday, just trying to get some stuff done and out the door.
Yeah. Staff are all gone this afternoon. We have some of the staff call it Freedom Fridays, but we have our summer Friday schedule where, to make up for all the hours that we work during tax season, we have, I don't know, it's usually 5 or 6 weeks in the summer where the office closes at 1 o'clock on Fridays. That all got messed up due to our crazy July 15th deadline and all the other schedules, but we have done it the last 4 weeks. So this is the last of those afternoons off for our staff, which is, frankly, I'm glad it's over because we've got a lot of stuff to get done by that September 15th deadline.
Yeah.
You feeling good about all your projects?
Well, I do feel like I'm ahead. I reviewed a tax return today that I reviewed September 7th last year. So it feels like I'm a week or so ahead. So that feels pretty good.
That's good. It'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Well, one topic, that I thought would be interesting for us to explore, we've talked about it in theory, but we haven't really talked about it in too much depth yet, is the home office deduction, and especially in light of COVID, since so many people are working from home these days.
Right.
It's the home office deduction, the ability to take a tax deduction for using your home for business has a interesting history. When I first started out, they used to train us that they might as well print that form on red paper because it was just such a red flag to take that home office deduction.
Right.
But it seems like over the last 10, maybe 12 years, the general perception of the home office deduction has changed, and the IRS has issued a lot of guidance, and it's a much more commonly taken deduction.
I mean, it's funny. Have you ever had an IRS audit over a home office deduction, or them even look at it?
Yeah, I don't think I have.
Yeah. But you're totally right. I remember, as a new staff with Bob Greer and him like, hey, what are we doing here? Take that off, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. So anyways, it's interesting. So 2 years ago, the Tax Cut and Job Act of 2017 eliminated the 2% itemized deduction, which basically got rid of the home office deduction for employees. So for the most part, everything we're going to talk about today doesn't apply to employees. It only applies to business owners, sole proprietors, partnerships, things like that. I guess technically the 2% itemized deduction is still available to the state of California.
Right.
So it's still a consideration, but in terms of really being worthwhile digging into, as an unreimbursed employee expense, it really doesn't, it's really not a deduction. I guess the alternative to that is if you're an employee and you're working from home and you have out-of-pocket expenses for your employer should reimburse you for those expenses, and that's a way that those become a deduction.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing here under COVID is a circumstance where, let's say you've got some sort of professional service provider, we'll say an attorney, who has his own firm or is a partner in a partnership. They have an office. He's been working out of that office for 20 years, and now under COVID, he or she is required to work from home.
Right.
And has been working from home for the last 4 or 5 months, and may end up working from home for 9 or 10 months out of 2020.
Right.
So I hesitate to say, to just say, oh yeah, it's fully deductible. But if you look at the rules, you can take a home office deduction as long as your home office is regularly and exclusively used for work, that's the standard that we always apply.
Right.
And it also has to be your principal place of business.
Hmm.
So in a case where the person I mentioned before has an office, they go to their office, 5, 6 days a week, and then they also work from home at night, a few nights a week.
Right.
That's not their principal place of business. The home office deduction isn't applicable. But in this case, where suddenly on whatever, March 20th of 2020,
Right.
you are exclusively working out of your home, I
Hmm.
think there's an argument to be made that it is your principal place of business.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know like with clients, if they, hey, I want to take the home office deduction, and I've always kind of said, well, do you have another office where you go to, that your employer, well, in the past, has your employer provided you with a cubicle or an office? Do you have another office you pay rent to? And if they said yes, like, well, sorry, then you're pretty much out. But
Right.
this is obviously different for sure.
Yeah. So to be a principal place of business, it has to be uh, used exclusively for the management and administration of the business. So that's kind of the key. If that's the place where you're doing all of the management and administration of your business, then it qualifies as your principal place of business.
Huh.
So I do think that there's an argument. Again, I want to put all kinds of um, reservations on this. Check with us. Your results may vary. These things are very applicable to very particular circumstances. But with that being said, I definitely think there's a case with the example that I said where, for the first couple of months, it wasn't their principal place of business, but from March through December, it was their principal place of business.
Does that mean then that when they does that mean when they drive to the office, then now that's business miles because their home base was their home
I,
office?
I think it very well may. I just want to point out the fact that you and I are having this conversation from our work offices
Yeah,
is probably not very helpful if we were to be making that assertion.
yeah, yeah, for sure. That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So, anyways, I definitely plan to have that on kind of my checklist of things that I'm working with my clients on this year and thinking about circumstances like that. And if that's the case, it allows people to not only deduct their mortgage interest and property taxes that are normally deductible on a home, but if somebody rents a portion of their rent, portion of their utilities, a homeowner's insurance, all those costs become deductible. But just so people understand, it's a proration of all those expenses based on the square footage of your house that's used exclusively for that area. That is always the sticky point. I think I find that when when I ask clients, they say, "Hey, can I deduct my home office?" And you say, "Well, it's got to be an area you exclusively use for the business."
Yeah.
They'll say, "Well, it's also, my man cave, or this is where the kids do their homework, or something
Right.
like that." So it's important to really set that up as being exclusively for your office. And then, like with everything, meticulous record keeping is the key so that you can feel confident when you file your return. If for some reason the IRS wants to look at it, and if they're still thinking of it as a red flag, you can substantiate that deduction.
Well, I think it's maybe important also to mention that they have that new simplified method of the home office as well. And so, in theory, you can claim your full mortgage interest deduction, full property tax deduction, and take the home office deduction based upon $5 a square foot. I think up to a maximum of 100 square feet. Is that what it is? Something like
Yeah, I
that.
don't remember, but
Yeah. So,
yeah, good point. So, anyways, I think that's a good tip, practical tip for tax savings that I think will apply almost across the board to taxpayers this year.
yeah, very good.
So hopefully there's some tax savings, some silver lining in this whole work from home thing.
Great tip, Paul. Thanks.
All right, anything else to discuss? Any great plans for the weekend?
Well, I think this is the part of the meeting once again, but this time we get to say where both our teams suck and are in the basement. I don't know if the Angels are planning to come out of the basement, but I know the Mariners are. So.
The only thing I'll say is the Angels did beat the A's 2 out of 3 this week, which was very encouraging. And I don't know if you've seen the stats, but Mike Trout has been on an insane tear since he had his son a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, he has 7 home runs, I think, since he had his son, 6 or 7, something like that.
Wow.
Okay. But on the flip side, we are playing the Dodgers this weekend, and if any team beats the Dodgers this year, I will be shocked. They are loaded.
And the NBA playoffs start, I think, on Monday, I think.
Yeah, I think so. My Lakers are limping into the playoffs, it feels.
That's funny.
In case people are curious at all, our staff, our senior accountant, Daniel Chang, is a huge Clippers fan, and that is a running conversation, a running debate with him is Clippers versus Lakers. And I got to say, don't let him hear this, but I think the Clippers have a better chance than the Lakers.
All right, I think that's it for this week. Hope you have a good weekend, Paul.
All right.
And talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.